into number 10, we have Samara's well. Have you guys seen the movie The Ring? If so, wouldn't you run and hide as far as you possibly could away from this basement? I mean, In 2015, Reddit user Colintendo shared a link to his Imgur saying, "I have the ring in my basement." And on closer inspection, yeah, he does. That's the ring's well right there in the basement. I mean, I would say, Colin, get out of there, bro, or she probably will come and kill you in 7 days. Coming into number 9, we have a whole kitchen. How well off do you have to be to discover an entire servant's kitchen in your house that you'd never even noticed until now? I mean, seriously. This is quite the discovery. This is exactly what happened to Archie and Philippa Graham Palmer as they explored their property in Wales. Graham Palmer, I mean, they sound rich, don't they? Archie said that the basement had been a dumping ground for years, and it is thought that the room lay unused for 100 years. Imagine having that much living space. Oh my goodness. The kitchen was found behind some old junk and was left virtually untouched, with pots and pans still on the walls and cookbooks on the shelves. From a kitchen in a basement to the basement of a restaurant with a sick sense of humor, at number 8 we have a creepy gathering of dolls. Redditor Gravity Boy posted, "Found this in the basement of a restaurant I went to last night." Now the restaurant in question turns out to be Hanny's in Phoenix, Arizona. One fellow redditor looked at the picture and said, "It looks like Annabelle's Reunion," which, to be honest, it totally does. It turns out that this is an art installation, but I really wouldn't want to be the one that interrupts this illicit miniature game of craps. I also hear that the restaurant has very interesting toilets in this location, but the dolls really freak me out. Coming into number 7, we have a 150-year-old signed photo of Abraham Lincoln. Can you imagine cleaning out your grandmother's basement to discover signed photographs of one of America's most famous presidents? On top of that, it was in an album with photos of other senators and cabinet members, and there were signatures. This is a piece of American history right here. So this is exactly what happened to a woman who appeared on British TV show The Antiques Roadshow. Presenter Wes Cowan valued the album at, wait for it, $100,000, which is a pretty big basement find. Coming into number 6, we have a priceless art piece. A dusty old painting was found in a basement of a deceased elderly couple in New Jersey in 2016. The small painting was just 9 inches tall and was discarded as worthless, but it actually turned out to be a painting by celebrated Dutch artist Rembrandt. The painting, called The Unconscious Patient, was spotted by 2 eagle-eyed art dealers and sold for $870,000 at auction, which actually is very, very cheap for a Rembrandt, which have traditionally been going for millions. Imagine $870,000 in your basement. Whew. The painting dates back to the mid-1600s and has since been put on display at the Getty Museum. Coming into number 5, we have a 90-kilo alligator. In 2016, an alligator was discovered living in a basement by a repairman who was working in a man's house in Lansing, Illinois. The gator had apparently been living down there for 26 years when he was discovered. I mean, imagine keeping an alligator in your basement for 26 years. The reptile belongs to Charles Price, who said that he walked it in his garden and fed it chicken breast. The gator had grown to 6 feet long when he was discovered by the worker. He was later seized and taken to an animal shelter, but like, imagine being the repair guy going down to someone's house and finding a gator in their basement. Seriously. Anyone for severed puppet heads at number 4. Hurrah! So this is another Reddit classic. A redditor posted that they found this horrifying array in their basement behind the furnace. Some of you may say, how did they not know that this was behind the heater, but some people on this list had no idea they were housing a full kitchen, so here we have an array of disembodied puppet heads tied together with strings. Hip hip hooray for the person who constructed this to scare the living bejesus out of future residents. Oh, great! At number 3, we have a mass grave. When new owners of a home formerly resided in by Benjamin Franklin moved in, they found the grim discovery of 1,200 bone fragments in the soil below their basement. The house on Craven Street in London had fragments of bone dating back to the exact time when Benjamin Franklin lived there in the 1700s. It turns out that one of the founding forefathers of America wasn't a murderer, he just let this house be used as a secret anatomy school at the time. Back then, dissecting bodies bodies was illegal, so it was all in the name of science, which I can respect. Coming into number 2, this is really sad actually, we have prisoners and kidnap victims. It's really horrible, but often sickos use their basements to keep people captive. Often their hostages go unnoticed for sometimes decades. So this is exactly what Josef Fritzl did. When she was just 18, Josef Fritzl lured his daughter into the basement of their home in Austria and kept her there for 24 years. Unbeknownst to her, he had been building a secret lair to trap her in. To get to the cell in which his daughter Elizabeth was trapped in, Fritzl or anyone looking for the secret space had to cross 5 locked rooms. The cell had 2 sleeping areas, basic cooking functions, and a bathroom. Elizabeth gave birth to 7 children down there and was eventually discovered when one of the children fell ill and was allowed to go out to hospital. When police raided the home, they made the grim discovery in the basement. So I just wanted to end off this list with a really happy one at number 1. So this is good. Yeah, I know there have been things that have been valued at more, but imagine making this discovery. At number 1, we have $23,000 of cold hard cash discovered in a basement. A couple in Cleveland discovered $23,000 in cash hidden in a suitcase in the ceiling of their basement. The couple in their 30s were remodeling their home when they found the little green suitcase containing the money. The cash was dated between 1928 and 1934 and was found wrapped in wax paper with a newspaper article from the 1950s. The couple counted up all of the cash bundled into 20s and 50s and invested the money into their mortgage. I'm not sure that that's how I would spend a windfall of 23k. I don't know. How would you spend it if you suddenly found $23,000 in your house? What would you do with it?
Alright, coming in at number 10 now, we have Joshua Rules. In 2015, a man took his brother along with him to go house hunting in Michigan when they stumbled across a dirty, wet, and unfinished basement. They saw writing on the wall, and when they took a closer look, they realized that a child used to live down there. One wall read Josh's rules. Number 1, stop reading your walls. Number 2, no watching Isaiah through the hole. And number 3, no writing or drawing on the walls. Number 4, if you don't like these rules, go to number 0. Other messages said things like, don't climb into my room, or, and I think this one is the creepiest, stop watching me. The man posted all of these pictures to Reddit, where users came up with their theories ranging from schizophrenia to the supernatural. Very strange stuff either way. Next up at number 9 now, we have Satan. In 2015, Imgur user Bushi992 posted these pictures to Imgur of the basement and attic in the house that he and his friends had just moved into. As you can see, something went down here. The symbols appear to be satanic in nature. There were pentagrams, rams, snakes, and strange messages on the wall, such as, for I am the earth and within me the devil burns. Many people asked them why didn't they ask to see the attic and basement before they moved in. I think that's a very good point. I'm not sure if I could sleep knowing this stuff was below me. At number 8 now, we have the tape. Reddit user Lumberjack shared pictures of a small basement passageway that he discovered in his new home. Inside it, he found a locked door which concealed an entrance to a small room. Inside that room was a briefcase and a safe. He opened that and found some money, a few watches, and videotapes. The tapes had writing on the front of them. One of them simply read, no, 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 no. He handed everything over to the police for investigation. Would you guys have done the same, or would you have ignored the message and watched the tape? I'm not sure if I could have. Okay, next up at number 7 now, we have the tombstone. In 2016, a student from Massachusetts made a grim discovery in their university house basement, a grave. Derek Crook was interviewed about the tombstone next to the boiler in his home. The message on it says, this marks the burial site of Jabez Hardin, who served in the War of 1812. Now he died in 1879 at the age of 83. At first, the housemates were very creeped out by this find, but now James actually quite enjoys shocking visitors to the house by randomly announcing there's a grave in the basement. Maybe that's just his coping mechanism. Next up at number 6, we have graffiti. In 2012, Reddit user Tallest Waldo shared a creepy discovery he found in his basement. This writing, accompanied by some very strange symbols. Another Reddit user identified the symbols as being part of occult spellcasting. They suggested this basement used to be a cult member's ritual workspace. After meditating on the symbols for a while, it seems they had an epiphany and wrote the message that we can now see on the wall. I can kind of make out something about their soul being fire, and the time has come to use the gateway they have opened. What do you guys think it says? I'm not even sure if I want to know. At number 5 now, guys, we have Peter Pan. In 2010, a woman in LA found something very disturbing in her basement. Wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s were the mummified remains of 2 newborn infants. They were wrapped up with a copy of Peter Pan and a membership card to the Peter Pan Woodland Club. Detectives identified who did this, a woman called J.M. Barrie, who coincidentally had the same name as the author of the book but was of no relation. What police have never figured out though is the purpose of this. What did this symbolize? Was this woman trying to convey a message about her dead newborns and the story of Peter Pan's Never Neverland? We may never know. At the number 4 spot now, we have mold. In 2005, a family who moved into a new home were decorating one of the rooms when they noticed the bookcase was a little bit loose. They nudged it and it swung open to reveal a secret passageway. Inside they found a note that read, "Hello, if you're reading this, then you found the secret room." The letter went on to explain how they were the previous tenant of the house but had to move out because of mold, which made their children very sick. The new owners who were reading this actually listened to the warning and moved out because of the mold too. They even sued the broker who sold them the house. I'm sure they're happy they got the warning, but I would be a little bit creeped out to find a note that congratulated me for finding the secret room. Very weird stuff. Alright, next up at number 3 now, we have the asylum. Now, not much is known about the picture you're about to see or even who took it, but I think that kind of adds to the whole mysterious allure of it. This was the writing found on the basement wall of an abandoned mental asylum. It reads, "I never knew much about people until I took one apart just to see how it worked." Many commenters online have speculated who exactly wrote this and if perhaps the story behind this message could lead to the reason the asylum was abandoned in the first place. Moving on to the number 2 spot now, we have drugs. Imgur user Boymers shared a couple of pictures from the basement of a house that he moved into in 2012. Now, the landowner had told him that the previous tenants were, quote, hardcore drug users. They didn't really see any evidence of this though. That was until they went into the basement. This was the sight they were met with when they arrived. It appears to be a message written in blood. The numbers 41 and 90 are large and prominent, surrounded by a bunch of random letters and the handprints of the people who made this. Other numbers on the wall include 82, 6 and 35. What does this all mean? Is this some sort of secret code? Whoever took the time to make this must have thought these numbers held some real significance, because it looks like they use their own blood. And finally, number 1 now, we have the bunker. Now for me, a bunker is basically a huge creepy basement with nothing above it. It's like a super basement. In 2014, an Imgur user shared a story and pictures from when they visited a friend in northern Germany. In the woods, they found an abandoned bunker. They followed the endless hospital-like hallways. As they ventured deeper and deeper, they found graffiti on the walls with words like die and help. Eventually, they came across a huge yellow vault door that had been ripped off its hinges, a worrying sight to see. What could have been that powerful? A little further on, they found the creepiest writing so far, a message in German that translates to "Hello Satan, I love you." It wasn't long before they just turned back. That clearly isn't a place you want to stick around in for too long.
Starting us off at number 10 is the underground city. I would be so chuffed if I found an underground city in my basement, or like, what great value for money. Real estate is steep these days, you guys. Underground city, we need that. Anyway, in Turkey back in 1963, a homeowner knocked down a wall in his basement to find a hidden room. And then another, and then another, and then a whole network of tunnels. AKA what turned into Derinkuyu, one of the most impressive archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Derinkuyu is an ancient multi-level underground proper city that could accommodate about 20,000 people and had a bunch of amenities too, like stables, cellars, chapels, livestock, and even running water from an underground river. It's believed the underground city was used by Christians as protection during the Arab-Byzantine wars. It had about 8 levels, and damn, what a find this is. Like, honestly, like, kudos to whoever the hell found that. Kudos to you. You probably sold that for like $1 billion. Probably more. I hope you're enjoying your life on an island somewhere in the Caribbean. I wish I was you. Coming in at number 9 is The Box. Lorne Kaplan founded the company Free Home Cleanup, which offers free home cleanout services for hoarders. During one case of major hoarding, he was cleaning out the basement workroom of a farmhouse built sometime in the 1800s located in Hartsdale, New York. As he was cleaning, Lorne found a bunch of cans of paint, of stain, spackle, and so forth, but one can stood out to him. Inside one of the cans, he found the ashes of a deceased family pet. Like, I know people keep their relatives' ashes, but I didn't know cremating and keeping your pet's ashes was a thing. But the worst part was the ashes weren't even the current owners', so whose pet's ashes were they? How long had they been there for? Was it a sad situation where the pet died naturally and they just couldn't bear to part with it? Or did they accidentally kill the pet and burn the body so no one would ever find out? Like, many things could have happened, and I need to know what happened. At number 8 we have the bunnies. Back in December of 2015 in Saukville, Wisconsin, 29 rabbits were found in the basement of an abandoned rundown barn. They were all in cages in horrible conditions, and one of them was even found just dead in its cage. Thankfully, the Wisconsin Humane Society removed all the rabbits, and after being examined, it was concluded that all of them had some kind of general or respiratory infection. Almost all of them also had scabs on their bodies and severe hair loss, meaning they had been neglected for a while in this dark environment. Sadly, there was little to no hope of finding the person who owned the barn or put the rabbits there because they were long gone by then, but thankfully all the bunnies became adoptable after intensive caring and healing, so yay. I mean, there's a happily ever after, and thank God, because I was about to slap a because we do not abuse animals, not under my arch, no, not ever. Filling our number 7 slot is the renovation. Now, a few years ago, a woman living in Wisconsin decided to renovate her entire home, as you sometimes do. What had been bugging her for ages was the basement, so she decided to start with that first. When contractors came and started digging it up, they made a startling discovery. Hundreds and hundreds of human remains, including children's skulls, were found there, and the woman probably wanted to evaporate into the ground at that point. And I mean, fair enough, I would too. Turns out her house was built on top of an old burial ground, and the remains were nearly 2 centuries old, so thankfully she was in the clear. With that being said, all the renovations had to stop, and it took her 15 months to get approval from the State Historical Society before restarting them. Honestly, damn, imagine wanting to renovate your house then finding a graveyard. Like, how does one even react to that? I know I'm smiling, but I'm not smiling on the inside. Now at number 6 is the utter snakery, and truly, honestly, you guys, the couple in this story got so snaked by life, I feel so bad for them. So back in 2009, a couple had just bought a home in Rexburg, Ohio, and were super excited about it because yay, new house, new life, new chapter, God knows what. But either way, their excitement was very short-lived. Within the first few weeks, they started finding a lot of snakes in their backyard, which they just couldn't understand. The area itself barely had any, so why were there so many in their yard alone? The couple also started hearing noises from under their floors and inside their walls, so they decided to investigate. They ended up removing a panel of sliding in their basement and were probably hoping to God they spoke parcel tongue when they saw what was inside. Dozens and dozens of snakes just started coming out of their wall, and oh, I just feel like they're on me. I don't like it, I don't like the feeling, and that's not even the worst bloody part. The couple also had a problem with their water system because it just tasted very oniony when it came out, and they came to find out that was from the snakes exuding this musk when they get scared. Well, A, BRB while I gag, and B, their only option was to either live there or spend $100,000 removing the nest, so they filed for bankruptcy and moved the hell out. Can you imagine? That just sucks so bad. Imagine buying a house, finding like a snake labyrinth, and being like, oh, well, guess we're on the streets now. Coming in at number 9 are the cups. This is another horror story coming from Lorne Kaplan, our resident free home cleanup guru. He agreed to clean out the basement section of an old 3-story apartment in a fairly rundown neighborhood, so already we're expecting the worst here. Either way, he was thrilled to find the basement in pretty good condition, aka there was just not that much trash or litter on the ground, so I mean, the situation was workable. It makes it bearable at least. Anyway, all that excitement went down the bloody drain when he opened the cupboards and found 30 odd teacups filled with dead cockroaches. And it wasn't even that they all accidentally just died and fell into the teacups. Like, no, the owner was collecting dead cockroaches and storing them in these teacups in the basement. That is disgusting. Like, I can't. Like, if I was Lorne and someone wanted me to clean that and never warned me about that, I'd be so pissed. Like, the disrespect. Put some respect on my name. I'm done. I'm not even Lorne Kaplan. At number 4 are the teeth. This is the last one from Lorne on our list, but honestly, thank you for your service, and I'm sorry you had to see any and all of this. Now with this case, Lorne was in New Jersey cleaning out a home for an elderly woman whose husband had recently died. He was making his way through the house and then finally got to the basement, which was filled with cardboard boxes, which was pretty standard. As he was going through them, he found one that rattled around quite a bit, so he opened it up. Inside, he found dozens and dozens of dentures, loose teeth, and bridges. First of all, again, BRB while I gag, and secondly, the cherry on top was that they weren't the woman's or her late husband's. So whose freaking teeth were they? Why were they there? Whose are they? When were they are they dental records from people who were killed? Like, I need answers. Why is there a box of teeth in this woman's house? Whose teeth are they? Filling our number 3 slot is the doll. Now this one was shared by someone on Reddit who said this doll was discovered in the basement of an estate sale. The doll is really not what you'd imagine. It's extremely pale, the face and body is that of an old Asian woman, which is just weird in and of itself. You don't usually see an old doll at all. On top of that, the expression of the doll is just one of anguish, and it's just unsettling. Her teeth aren't all there, and her 2 index fingers were broken off as well. Like, at this point, I'd really prefer Annabelle over this. Like, I'm not doing this. She was found in a very tightly secured black box that was even tied up, indicating whoever had her beforehand really wanted the box to remain shut. Now the user claimed there was a name carved into the back of the doll's neck, and other users started commenting, daring the user to say the name into a mirror thrice to see what would happen. I don't know if they ended up doing it or not, but maybe don't listen to trolls on Reddit trying to get you killed. Just, you know, a little word of advice. Now at number 2 is The Lady. Posted by Redditor Robinson217 2 years ago, they shared that they used to volunteer with their local police department, and one day they found something equally disgusting and really sad. They raided a house that had been suspected to be abandoned for quite a while, and that a squatter was now maybe living inside of it. Now they cleared the ground floor and found nothing, and so they made their way to the basement. In the basement they found the old lady who had owned the house, except she was dead. And not only was she dead, but her little dog had eaten her entire face. Like, the skin from her hairline to her jawline to both her ears, like, it was all gone. Thankfully, her eyeballs were still in the sockets, but other than that, it was just a skeleton in clothes. Honestly, I would have stopped volunteering at that point. Some things you just can't unsee. I wasn't even there, but I can't unsee that. And finally, at number 1 is the poem. This was shared by Reddit user Gizmo588, who said they used to live in an old house in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota. But when they first moved in, the user was exploring the house and went into the bedroom in the basement that was going to be theirs. Honestly, I'd be so pissed if my parents moved into a house and I got a bedroom in the basement. Like, no! I deserve better. Either way, in the bedroom they found a hand-painted poem in dark reddy brown paint that said, "I wrote a little poem. I wrote it on my wrist. I wrote it with a blade. I wrote it with a twist." Now if you don't get it by now, the person wrote that poem with his own blood. Turns out the user found out that the previous owner had committed suicide in the backyard of the house by cutting his wrists, and before him, an elderly couple had died in the house as well. And I'm sure you can imagine that family did not stay in that house very long after that, I assure you.
Number 10, we have Samara's death hole. I am talking about the movie The Ring, but I will admit that that sounded a bit suspicious. Firstly, I want to say that I absolutely love Reddit. Reddit is like an endless source of scary information from real people, so thank you Reddit, and thank you humans for contributing. Honestly, I don't know where Most Amazing Top 10 would be without Reddit. So in 2016, Colintendo posted on Reddit to say, "I have the ring in my basement," and looking at the pictures, it literally looks like they do. They found a well under a trap door under 2 cement blocks. They lifted up the blocks and hello creepy death hole. Like, seriously, who died down there? People on Reddit were freaked out. The post got over 8,000 upvotes. After all of the attention the hole got on Reddit, Colintendo gave us an update. They said, "A friend told me I should throw a lifelike doll down there to show the kids when they act up. This is what happened when little Johnny wouldn't eat his vegetables. I think that's cruel." He also said, "For visibility it is 8 feet deep, 4 feet filled with water. There is nothing else down there, no holes, no copeland pipes, no gates to hell. It's just a hole with water, nowhere to explore or spelunk." Still though, creepy hole in the basement. I don't like it, and something about the stone. Creepy. This person who found this hole had a premonition that it even existed long before they found it. Coming in at number 9, we have the railroad hole. This is an insane story. Imagine moving into a home and always having a weird feeling about your property. Alexandra Poulos of Lansdowne, Pennsylvania said she always knew there was something going on in her house that she didn't yet know about. She said she felt a presence. While her basement started breaking, she was very stressed, but when it opened up to reveal a massive hole, she was thoroughly creeped out. Long story short, she dug deeper into the hole and found a room 14 feet below. When they dropped a ladder down, they discovered that the room was actually part of an old underground railroad. Now Poulos is investigating the history of the space and making structural repairs. She's convinced that there's a spiritual presence and she wants to know the full story. Are there ghosts of the railroad underneath her house coming out through a hole? What a sentence. Coming in at number 8, we have the sinkhole. In 2013, a man in Norwood, Cincinnati woke up to discover a 40-foot sinkhole in his basement. The hole was 10 feet wide and 40 feet deep. It seems like something had gone pretty wrong, obviously. Sinkhole. Honestly, have a look at it. This is what the homeowner had to say.
I mean, everything. Everything I had that was worth value is gone.
The house ends up being purchased off the owner by the city, who tore it down to repair the hole, so I guess it's kind of a silver lining, although they did lose out on their house for a while. Coming in at number 7, we have the Mirelurks. In 2019, the Ace of Finland posted this scary looking hole on Reddit's Urban Exploration subreddit. They simply wrote, "We found a deep hole filled with water in the basement of an abandoned factory," and well, I mean, that is a pretty accurate description. This actually looks like a Tomb Raider level filled with Harpoon Doom. Do you remember when you'd make Lara Croft swim down the spooky holes? Others said it looked like a place that would be full of Mirelurks from Fallout. One commenter wrote, "Seems like the beginning of a horror movie. Pair of explorers in an abandoned building stumble upon this flooded basement. Just as they turn around to leave, something grabs them by the ankle." Right? Coming in at number 6, we have this mystery hole. A YouTube video uploaded in December 2011 shows a guy investigating a very strange hole in his basement floor. At first he shows the hole with the camera, it's covered over, but then he opens it up and pokes the camera down there, and it does look very deep indeed.
Yeah, so I guess I'll probably go down there eventually, but I don't know, it's kind of a small hole. So, definitely a bigger person.
Like, we never actually get to the bottom of this spooky hole, and I would straight up freak out if this was in my home, because what's down there? Also, would you not worry about this damp open space being underneath your house? Like, I wouldn't structurally feel good about that, let alone the ghosts and ghouls. Coming in at number 5, we have the doorway to the abyss. 4 years ago, Gibbsman posted on R Creepy on Reddit. They simply wrote, "The hole in my basement," and then shared a link to this Imgur horror. Can you even imagine? To me, this looks like the lair of the Mothman or something. Some of the comments are reasonably on point. Max Powers 8988 said, "Sit in there with no lights on for 30 minutes while you conduct an EVP session." Another commenter said, this is Mr. Buzz Killington, they said, "You're that guy in the horror films that would insist that everyone stay together with the lights on, and if anything weird happened, you would just pack your bags and get into the car and drive back to Florida instead of wandering into the strange dark places alone." Exactly, I kind of feel what they're saying here, like, get in the hole or don't post a picture of it. Coming in at number 4, we have this very holy hole. Imagine finding a hole in your basement and then discovering it leads to an underground chapel that's been hidden for 100 years. I mean, I don't feel good about that. People do not have secret underground chapels for good reasons, do they? It's always like secret praying or ritual sacrifice or satanic cults. Here's a picture of Gareth amid the original hole, and here he is in the room at the end of it. Honestly, that crumbling cross on the floor really freaks me out. I don't like it. Coming in at number 3, we have the spider hole. Okay, I don't know what I dislike more, spiders or holes, but spiders that live in holes, that really takes the biscuit. With that in mind, this really is one of the most horrifying basements I've ever seen. Posted on R Creepy on Reddit by Uncle Drunky in 2018, they simply wrote, "The basement of a house I visited today," and then they posted this picture. I mean, can you even imagine? This is one big giant spider hole. I've never seen such thick cobwebbing in my whole life, and this is outrageous. Once again, I do love Reddit for the everyday stories shared and the everyday comments from everyday people who just make really good points. Blake Major said there is a 90% chance a human-sized spider is lurking down there. Honestly, I think you're right. Dank Fisherman said, "But you might get some epic loot for defeating it." That's true, but still, it wouldn't be enough for me. Coming in at number 2, who is Isaiah? It really isn't just the hole that is the scary thing in this basement. In 2015, a man and his brother discovered a horrible secret at a basement of an unoccupied home in Michigan. The siblings were house hunting when they entered the basement of a vacant property, only to be greeted with scary messages. Of the worrying scrawl on the walls was a set of creepy rules for somebody by the name of Joshua. They read: 1. Stop reading your walls. 2. No watching Isaiah through the hole. 3. No writing or drawing on the walls. 4. If you don't like these rules, go to number 0. That isn't a number 0 though, but really that isn't the point. For me, the worrying thing is wrapped up in number 2. No watching Isaiah through the hole. I mean, hello creepy. It isn't clear which hole this is talking about, but there is a peephole, a bunch of peepholes drilled in the staircase, so maybe he was watching Isaiah through there. Also written on the walls was "Stop watching me," so I've just about had enough of this creepy basement and the creepy holes. Finally, at number 1, this is a horrifying true story, we have The Pit. This was truly awful. So Gary Michael Heidnik was a rapist and a murderer that kept abducted women chained up in a pit in his basement in North Philadelphia. Heidnik was given the name the People Collector as he abducted 6 African American women and held them prisoner in the pit. He killed 2 of them, and one of them was electrocuted in a hole in the basement filled with water. Among his victims were Josephina Riviera, Jacqueline Askins, Agnes Adams, Sarah Lindsay, and Deborah Dudley. The latter 2 lost their lives in his house in the hellhole. Here is a horrible drawing of the pit. Honestly, how utterly vile. Luckily, Heidnik was apprehended and sent to jail. So guys, that was the top 10 scariest holes found in people's basements. Which did you think was the scariest? Let me know in the comments section down below.